Hello, I'm Barbara. Today's the 2nd of November 2020 and this is episode 4 of my diary of my recovery from binge eating disorder. So I've got a couple of things that I want to talk about today. But first of all, I'll just say that I haven't had any more binges since my last diary entry. I have had several occasions when I kind of felt uncomfortable with having snacks, with having little bits of chocolate or whatever after a meal. And one occasion when I was on my own in the evening and had quite a strong feeling that I wanted to binge. But the thing is, I was actually slightly hungry. So I decided to have a small snack of an apple and a handful of walnuts. And I did that, and that did the trick. So I haven't had any more binges since last time, which is great. But I think the thinking processes I've been going through just demonstrate that the journey is not all one way. That it's not just about the behaviour, although obviously binge eating is the kind of crucial element. The thought processes and the fear, the anxiety and the obsessive thoughts are all part of it. And really it's how I respond to those that determine whether, I go back into the actual binge eating behaviour, or whether I am able to get to a place where those thinking processes become less frequent and less intrusive for me. So that was just a quick recap since last time. The first thing I wanted to say is something of what I had planned for last time, which is the things that have helped me, that are helping me as I seek to recover. And the first of those is kind of good, reliable information about what binge eating disorder is and ways of managing it better and of healing it, of curing it. So I want to give an honourable mention there to 3 things. One is the BEAT, which is the Eating Disorders Association in the UK, the BEAT website, where they have some clear basic information about binge eating disorder, information for families, and they also organise a helpline, although I haven't actually accessed it myself. The way that I got involved with BEAT was I saw a link on a Facebook group about a focus group that they wanted to run with people with experience of binge eating disorder in preparation for a publicity campaign that they're going to run next year. So I kind of signed up and got involved with that. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled, because they said they're going to send members of the focus group the first draft of the campaign material, and they'd like comments. So I'm excited that hasn't come yet, but I'm excited for when it does. And next year, during Eating Disorders Awareness Week, there will be a publicity campaign about binge eating disorder. So look out for that. And it's through that focus group that I met a group of other sufferers who I've now formed a little mutual support group with over WhatsApp. And they're being very supportive, and I hope that I am being supportive to them as well. So we can chat and we can just share ideas, and if one person is having a rough time, the others kind of pitch in and support them, and that's important. I think having people around you who understand and are supportive is a really important thing. Because the fact of the matter is that most of the people who I've told now, friends and family who I've told about my binge eating disorder, haven't made very much response. Now I don't blame them for that, and I mean, nobody has made a bad response. Nobody has said, "What you're talking about, pull yourself together," or anything like that. I think it's just clear that they kind of don't really get it. They don't know what to say to help, even though I've kind of tried to tell them to some extent what to say to help. So having that group of people who do understand is really important. The other 2 things I want to mention which are helpful are 2 books. The first one is called Overcoming Binge Eating by Dr. Christopher Fairburn. And the first section of the book is all about, I mean, it's from a kind of scientific medical point of view. What is binge eating? What leads to it? What kind of people are prone to it? How big is a binge? How frequently do they happen? And I've found that information very helpful because it details the kind of characteristics and circumstances which make somebody vulnerable to developing a binge eating issue. They talk about the things which can trigger a binge, and also the maintenance of a binge and the stopping of a binge. And having that knowledge has been really helpful, because what starts a problem may not be the same thing as what keeps it going once it's been established. What's abundantly clear from that information is that dieting is one of the strongest predictors of both of developing binge eating problems in the first place and of having and starting off an individual binge. If you don't diet, you are much less likely to binge. The second part of the book is a self-help program for stopping binge eating. Now, I'm not following that program now, although I have done in the past. I mean, that was the very first, or the first edition of that book was the first kind of official information that I came across about binge eating more than 20 years ago. And I did at that time try to follow the self-help program. But that program starts with requiring you to weigh yourself weekly and to eat 3 meals and 2 to 3 snacks every day. And it's the 2 to 3 snacks that really freaks me out. And I've come to the conclusion, looking at the book now, that the author is coming primarily from an understanding of bulimia nervosa. And people with bulimia tend to restrict much more strongly than people with binge eating disorder, and are therefore much more likely to be underfeeding themselves. So I can see the sense of, not so sure about the sense of weighing regularly actually, but the sense of the meals plus snacks for people with bulimia. It's really not necessary for people, in my view, for people with binge eating disorder who are significantly overweight. So I'm not actually following that programme, although I appreciate the book for the kind of factual and scientific information. The programme that I am following loosely is from a book called Intuitive Eating. And this is a kind of an absolute classic of disorder. It's a kind of one of the original anti-diet books. It's not specifically aimed at people with eating disorders, although there is some information, some eating disorder specific information towards the back. It's more about just how to eat without giving into diet culture, without being influenced by the belief that you have to be thin. So it's from there that I'm getting principles such as letting go of the desire to intentionally lose weight, giving myself absolute unconditional permission to eat anything that I want, as much as I want, whenever I want, but listening to my body, honouring my hunger, becoming aware of what my hunger signals are, when I need to eat, when I've had enough to leave me nicely satisfied and nourished. And that book also encourages enjoyment of food. And let me tell you, when you binge eat, you might start off, the first few bites might be enjoyable, but that doesn't last for long. So when I eat according to intuitive eating principles, I enjoy my food much more. Whether I'm having, however much I'm having, if I'm only having a little or if I'm having more, whether it's what you would call a kind of a healthy food or meal, or whether it's something indulgent. I actually pay attention to it and enjoy it. And the last thing I'm going to talk about today is something which happened earlier when I was out with my husband, and we bumped into somebody that he knows better than I do. I've only met this lady a few times, and as we were finishing up the conversation and she was kind of starting to move away, she kind of looked me up and down and said, "You look like you've lost a lot of weight." And I sort of burbled like, "Ooh," a bit, and my husband said, oh yes, she has, we've both been trying to lose weight. And she looked and said, "Well, you'll have to tell me your secret, because I can't." And off she went, and I was standing there thinking, what do I say? Only this morning I looked at myself in the mirror, and I also caught sight of myself in a shop window when we were out shopping. And my thought was, even though I know that I have lost weight because of the way my clothes fit. Oh yeah, by the way, I didn't weigh on the 1st of November, and I'm not intending to weigh for the foreseeable. I might weigh on the 1st of January, but I'll reassess when we get closer to that whether I want to or not. That said, I do know that I've lost weight. But when I looked in the mirror this morning and caught my reflection in the shop window, my thoughts were, how can I feel this much better in my body and yet still have this enormous big fat belly? And look at me, I am just bigger than the vast majority of people. And yet this lady says, "You look like you've lost a lot of weight." And at one level I'm thinking, well, I do want to. It's pointless pretending that I don't want to lose weight, because I do. But the choice I'm making is not intentionally to pursue it. And I think another part of that, in order to help me to not intentionally pursue weight loss, I need to not get too excited about the fact that I am losing weight and the fact that people are going to notice it. It's inevitable that people are going to notice. I know that, and I know that this lady is part of mainstream culture, has been influenced by the expectation, the belief that losing weight is a good thing, that people should be praised for it, that people should be complimented for it. It's not her fault that causes complications for me. I think probably for the next few days I am going to be mulling over that encounter. I'm going to be asking myself how I could have responded better. It actually went through my, when she said, "What's your secret?" what went through my head is, actually, I've got an eating disorder, and you don't want that in your life. On the other hand, if you have got it in your life, you probably want to know how to recover from it. There we are. So, the obsession remains. The obsession is still there. The fear, am I eating too much, or am I not eating enough? Am I going to get too hungry and then I'll be tempted to binge? It's kind of constant. It's there all the time. So in terms of my eating behaviour, I think I'm doing okay. In terms of being aware of my weight and being worried, being concerned, being interested in my weight, that is still very much an issue, and I don't know if it's ever going to change. There we go. I'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.